everybody. Welcome to the Life is Art podcast. And we've got a little bit of a change. Up until now, I have not had any guests on. And now that has changed. And a good friend of mine, Paul Medina, very noted artist, has come up to the studio and is having a cup of coffee and we're going to have a conversation. Paul, it's good to have you here, man.
Well, thanks for inviting me. This is kind of exciting for me and you.
Yeah,
it's cool.
Yeah,
it's very cool. I've wanted somebody to do this. I've spent a lot of times sitting around drinking beer or wine or what have you, and talking about art. And I think this is a great idea. I'm glad to be here.
Well, I'm glad to have you. So let's get into this.
Let me ask you a question. So at what point did you stop wanting to set the world on fire?
Consciously?
Yeah, as an artist, what was the day where you were like, you know what, I want to make this shit. I'm not going to be Van Gogh. I'm not going to come in here and be, well, that's a bad example because Van Gogh, obviously we know what happened to him.
In fact, he was a failure in his own life.
Yeah.
Or that's what he thought. I don't know. I think it's a natural progression of, no matter what topic that you're in, no matter what you're actually doing in your life, there comes a time where you realize that in the arts especially, it's stacked against you in a lot of ways. It's probably been about 30 years ago for me. I had a personal experience of getting to a certain amount of success that once I got there, I realized that I was changing as an artist, and my goals started to shift. And it was the realization that I was trying to fit into a mold to get to this success that's kind of a nebulous thing anyway. I know I've told you this story a million times that I got an article in a national art magazine, and I was really kind of disappointed because I was looking at the work, and I was in many galleries, and I was in a lot of galleries, and I was kind of just plugging holes.
Yeah.
I had a exhibition in California, and I had an exhibition in Florida, and all this kind of stuff, and I'm running around, and I was just cranking this work out to fill spaces, and I just didn't like to do that. And so when this article came out with beautiful pictures, I was, me and the gallery that got me the article, I was really pumped, and it came out, and I looked at it and I went, this is just not me. I had realized that I was chasing somebody else's dream.
But you were making a living at it. You were making money.
I was making a living at it.
Yeah, you're one of the few artists that I know that wasn't a slash. You ran the race. You actually were.
Yeah, I ran the race, and I realized that, I'm more as a long-term runner as opposed to, a sprint. But I think it was around that period of time where I realized what was more important. And I must say, and I've said it before, if I had made it, if I had in my mind made it, getting into some galleries that were more important, maybe, and see, this is this concept that I kind of gave up.
But I wonder, okay, because I know why you when you told me, when you were like, yeah, this is becoming monotonous. would you have felt the same if it had been a blue chip gallery where it's like, they're making the same demands of you. They're still asking that you churn out a vision, but you're making a truckload of money. Would that have made a difference, or were you just so?
Well, I've said it, Diaz just said a moment ago, I've said it before. It's like I may not be sitting here talking to you about the decision I made 30 years ago.
Yeah.
If I had been in a major gallery in Chicago or New York or Miami or whatever. But I didn't. And not only did I not like what I was producing, because I was on this train and train of thought and train of creativity, that this is how you do it. You go and you get into galleries, and then they start selling and everything. So you kind of bump up the gallery to a better gallery. But I was, because I'm an old man, and it's a lot different today. But I just didn't like the process, and I did not really like the imagery that I was working on, because, as you know, I allowed myself to work in series. I wasn't stymied by, I've got to create this imagery over and over and over again, and the next one's going to be in blue. And that's where I got. Now, I'm not saying that another artist could have done it differently, even at the same place that I was in. I almost felt embarrassed.
Why'd you feel embarrassed?
Because I was doing, at the time, and in the galleries that I was in, they brought you into their gallery with a certain imagery. And most of the galleries that I was in, not all, at a certain price point. So I was filling with these galleries that were selling $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 paintings. I was selling, like $1,000 or $1,500 piece, that kind of a thing. But I stepped away from it because I knew at that moment that I would never truly get where I wanted to be at the time on that route.
I mean, what made you think that? If you were on a trajectory, you were in the game, did something happen? Like, was there one event? Did you wake up one morning and you were like, okay, this isn't...
I was starting to, I had gotten to a point where I was working in wood primarily at the time, and I hired somebody to make the first cuts of the wood, and then I would take them and refine them, redefine them, and finish them off. I had somebody that was crating for me, that I would just take the work and they would send it off to where I needed to go. It needed to go. But yeah, it was that realization that, but I didn't know.
Yeah.
I was naive. This was back in the late '70s. No.
It was the 80s, wasn't it?
No. It was the late '70s. And I was doing what I thought I was supposed to do to get to that pinnacle of what I thought was success at the time. And I saw that magazine and I looked at it, and even though I got a lot of response from it, I could have picked up 2 more galleries if I had wanted to. I remember this woman from Bend, Oregon, which is kind of a neat little place.
Yeah.
That was wanting to work, that kind of thing. But then I thought, I have more to do than just this imagery that I'm doing right now. And that's when I decided, to hell with it. I'm going to pull out of the galleries, which I did. Within 2-month period of time, I had all this work, and I think I was in 5 galleries at the time, maybe, and sent the work back. I rented a storage unit, put it in there for way too long. I spent a fortune just on
Just storing it.
monthly storage. It was stupid, I know. But I never thought it was a bad idea. It wasn't more, and I think a lot of it had to do, this change, I think it had a lot to do with the process, the actual making of the art, as opposed to selling the art. There was the main gallery that I was in Santa Fe at the time it was one of the best galleries in Santa Fe. It was the Inthios Gallery, and she had all the big wigs in as artists, and I would try to sneak in new stuff, and she didn't want it. She wouldn't accept it. She wanted the same stuff. Now, that's
a hard thing, you know.
Well, I know that, but there are, this idea of, I've read, art history about, let's say New York and in the 50s and the 60s, and, that there were gallery artists, there were gallery dealers that stuck by you, let you grow. And I guess it was the galleries that I was in, or the galleries that I approached, that took the work. They had something that sold very well, and they didn't want a new thing, and that really bothered me.
That's like having a job, you're doing stuff. You go to work and you do things that you don't necessarily want to do. So part of the allure of being an artist, outside of living that art lifestyle, is you get to whatever that is now. Yeah, because it's completely changed. Part of the allure was waking up and being enthused about doing what you want to do, and then you look up and there's somebody sets another stipulation. It's, could you please make some more of those butterflies, or could you please make some more of those? It's like, well, damn, I could have gone.
Especially if they sell.
Yeah,
because the bottom line is galleries are not these places of worship.
Yeah,
you're giving them a commodity. You're giving them. It's a business. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry on all levels, and combined. I don't know. It was. I love the way that I've worked the last 30 years.
Yeah.
If I work in series now, and I've been working in series for about 25 years now, it gives me an enormous amount of creative freedom because like I said before, I had these responsibilities, and I wanted to get out of those responsibilities and just kind of be free to be who I was in the studio.
Now, fast forward to today. You're still an artist. You're still making some great work. What have you noticed that's different with these young artists? Are they still the same? Are they still like, I'm going to set the world on fire? Or has social media kind of changed it to where they're just kind of generating their own universes, and there's really no place to go outside of your bubble?
I think that there was a period of time where I think my attitude towards young artists have changed a little bit. I think that most creatives go through a period of time where they're going to set the world on fire. They're going to achieve this goal. They are so unique. They are so good, and maybe rightfully so in some instances. And again, as I said before, the way to the top has changed tremendously, not just in the visual arts, but music. Just everything. All the arts have been truly changed. The route to get to where you want to go, I think it's a lot different, and I think that because of that, I think people have more opportunity. They can show their work in virtual ways, just things like that. It's things have changed. I remember, about 10 years ago or 15 years ago, and here in Oklahoma City, I was asking the question, where are all the young artists? They just weren't around. And you'd go to galleries and stuff and openings, and it was just the same shit.
Yeah, same people. Yeah, but the same people. You knew usual suspects were going to be there.
Right. And then one day, it wasn't.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that they didn't exist. They were still defining who they were and the imagery that they wanted to do.
I noticed the vehicle has kind of changed.
Yeah.
It's
to that journey.
Yeah. And I don't think people are looking at, you get in these galleries, you get into, I don't know, you're not going to have art in a Sotheby's auction. You're not going to have art in all these different things to where you're selling for 100,000.
Some of us will.
Some will.
Very few.
But I think the mentality is turning into this. And I could be wrong, but I put a post up, and it was, I can't remember, it was some art institute giving good information as far as how to get into a gallery. But I sat there and I kind of laughed because I was like, hey, look, dude, let's tell the truth of the story. The truth is most of us are not going to get in your gallery. The way that you even find us is by this, word of mouth, somebody who's plugged in with you. None of us are going to get plugged in. And essentially what they were saying was some of the higher end galleries frown at you doing your own marketing. And you need to take these, and they didn't condemn the route of self promotion, but they condemned it being, to a certain point. Well, I said, I call bullshit on that. The chances of the average artist getting in those galleries, I think people are now understanding, is about as good as being, pulled out of high school and going to the MBA. It's not practical. And people are selling dreams to folks that aren't even a part of that universe.
I was the other day, and I can't remember who I was talking to, but we were talking as a few artists, but not all the artists, and they were asking me questions about art and stuff, and I said kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
You said that the majority of the creatives who work every day on their art go out there and beat the bushes and, try to get shows and that kind of stuff. That's the bulk of the creatives anywhere, not just in America, but anywhere.
It's just kind of the default how it is.
Only a few will reach that stereotypical, the mount, up on the mountain. And I think that once again, I think that there are still probably maybe a couple of handfuls of people, experts, major gallery owners who, tell everybody else what's good and what's bad at a certain level. So if you're aiming for a major gallery in New York or London or what have you, your chances, unless you have a patron, unless you live in that city and you play that game for 30 years, we'll never get there.
But you got a bunch of people per square foot all trying to play that game.
Right. Well, I think that's I think that's why I changed my approach, because I realized that the possibility of me being in that situation was so impossible. I want to be in the Tate Museum, but I live in Oklahoma City, and it has everything to do with the imagery and stuff. I get that, but I don't know. I just think that what I said before, when I saw those images of my work in this national magazine, I was kind of embarrassed and kind of went, really? I've been working for...
This is what it is.
This is what it is. And it took me X amount of time, a decade or what have you, or more to get to that point. What do I have to do to get to point B or to point C? And so and I'm not saying this is the right way to go, but for me, the important thing was just to do the work.
Yeah.
Because, and we've had this conversation before, I've never done it for money.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying that's the right way to go. I'm just saying that
I don't really think there's a right way anymore. I think everything is just, it's proven that everything is a hypothesis until somebody proves it true. Everything's a law until somebody proves otherwise. And it's really, really wild, wild west when it comes to art, even when we think there are rules in place. Because at any given moment that could change.
But yeah, it's like the stars have to align a certain way. Now, granted, you have to. The bottom line is you have to have the work.
I think people have stopped being good. Like the whole thing is I don't have to be good. I have to be a marketer. I have to be this. It's all these things.
There's a few that could that we've discussed before. No, yeah. So for me, it was like a matter of I didn't want to just crank stuff out. In fact, when I moved out of all those galleries, there were friends of mine that were just saying, "You're nuts. You are nuts."
Yeah.
I've never regretted it. And I've decided what I would do is, I spent the 2 years afterwards not doing shows, not doing anything. I was just in my studio creatively playing.
I've always had a difficult time with that because it seems like you're validated by money. When people see you doing art.
Well, gee, I wonder why.
Well,
everything is validated by money.
Everything is, but it put me in personally in a weird way because I felt like I kept asking questions that an artist shouldn't ask themselves. When you're an artist, you make art. It's the same way as breathing. You don't say, well, why are you taking this many breaths per second? You take them because you have to. Otherwise, you'll turn purple and die.
Yeah.
Well, creatively, you'll turn purple and die. And I think I spent a lot of time asking, what's it all for? I'd have all these works of art, and then I stopped working. I was like, I'm not going to do anything until somebody pays me for this. I don't want to just have stuff everywhere. But then you still have the itch.
Mm-hmm. I honestly know several artists, good artists, that are the same way. And that's what I think that's the difference. But, I'm not saying I'm unique in any way, but in my approach, what gets me up in the morning is the work. Going into my studio and just allowing myself to do what I want to do. And you know my work. I say I'm a series artist. These series make, I may be in a specific series for 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
Some of them were really short-lived, but mostly they're pretty long.
They're pretty expansive.
I don't hop around quickly.
Yeah.
But whenever I get the itch, I scratch it because I think that's what artists should do.
Yeah.
And in the situation that I was in with the galleries and what I was doing, I couldn't do that, or I didn't feel like it. Well, I know I couldn't do it. I was turned down by galleries that were selling this certain image. But that's just my story. Not every artist finds himself in galleries that are so, no, I was about to say money driven, but that's not true.
They liked a specific image that you were doing.
Right.
It's not that they were.
It was a proven commodity
Yeah.
for them. And I know that there are galleries out there that they don't say that it's the main focus, but it is. It's, when you're spending $10,000, $20,000 a month for a great space,
Expenditures and all that other stuff.
all space is money, and they have to keep it open.
Yeah.
That's why so many small galleries go out of business, is because it's a hard, it's a hard business. But getting back to what I was talking about a moment ago, about there's a certain amount, there's a group of, and it seems like they all know each other too.
Yeah.
These experts, these major galleries, international galleries, that they put, if they put their name on it, right? If this,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
they've given it its blessing, it opens up doors. And it really kind of assures you in a lot of ways that they're silly.
Most of us will never get those blessings. I hate sounding like that because it sounds like I'm so pessimistic.
But see, the thing was, you're younger than me. As you get older, that's why I still believe I made the right decision for me.
Yeah.
Because as I've gotten older, it's that concept of it's all about the process, all about the work, has become even more meaningful to
Yeah.
me. I'm at a certain age where I think, okay, if I'm lucky, I have 15 more years, maybe 20. I'm not counting on it. But, sometimes I ask myself, I'll be in the studio and go, what the fuck am I doing? Yeah, I've got to go get another crate or another box to put a piece in and store. But that's all I know.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just who I am. I can't separate myself like many artists. I'm an artist first, and then I'm a husband, and I'm a father, and that kind of stuff. But I can't separate that anymore. I've lived a lifestyle, and I've had people in my life, like my wife, who is just,
They got it. They understood
they
it.
got it.
Yeah.
And so I've been lucky in that regards, and I'm still lucky. I still sell work fairly regularly. I don't really seek out shows that much.
Yeah.
It's because, I've been griping to Grace that I've got to go to Tulsa this weekend because I'm at a show in Tulsa, and I just don't want to try. Isn't that crazy? It's like completely against what I was, 20 years ago.
Now you're probably going all over the places, fairs, shows, all that.
And, yeah. And, but again, it's if I had started out with, I'm doing this for the fame and the fortune, of course, when you're wanting to set the world on fire, you want those perks, you want that studio in Tuscany, those big dreams of what you think.
That was one of my big dreams, is to have a studio that I wasn't worried about how I was paying, and it looked stylish and all that. Now approaching 50, everything that I thought about, you told me that a long time ago, you're like, oh man, you're going to change over and over and over. I was still doing the hip graffiti type stuff. And you said I was going to change. Well, one of the things that's changed about me is practicality. Yeah, I'm very happy in whatever space that I have that has got like 4 corners to where I can put stuff. I'm not worried about, it feels like the Tuscan experience, and it's cool where I live. Like, I got lucky with what's going on at, the gallery and everything. But I've gotten to the point to where I can create if this isn't the setting. If you took away everything and just had a white wall room with art, I'd be perfectly all right to create.
Back when I was in my early 20s and 30s, it was like, didn't have much money.
Yeah.
And so I did like a lot of the artists that did, let's say, from the 50s or the late 40s.
Yeah.
You use wall paints, you use this. I remember somebody the other day, this is probably a couple of months ago, this young artist that was saying it's really a drag because she really can't create because she doesn't have the money for material.
Yeah.
Just,
you always have materials. You can use anything.
Whether it's, napkins or, what have you. I mean, if you've got that itch, if you've got that creative impulse that's part of you, you make do with what you have.
Yeah.
And you can make great stuff from nothing, literally. That's, I always hate to use the term create because it sounds so godly, but that's what you do. That's what artists do. They produce stuff from nothing.
Yeah, I'll be honest, man. It's hard to not toot your own horn as a creator. I'm not the most biblical person in the world, but nobody ever asked why God just sat there and said, let me make something. He just made it. That's kind of what artists do. They just make stuff. What was the plan? I mean, we got flooded out. The first time we got flooded out because we were such a screw up.
It's crazy shit right now too.
Yeah,
but I don't know. It's every artist I've ever known has their own journey. I know that sounds like a bumper sticker, but it's true. My way is my way. But originally we were talking, this whole concept of the conversation was when did I give up on setting the world on fire? I don't think I've given up on it. I think
the lens has changed for you.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I think it's just a matter of, in one respect, pleasing myself, but of course, I want an audience. Of course, hey, I would love to sell more art, but I would do, and again, this is another bumper sticker. I would do this shit if I wasn't selling it at all, because that's just who I am.
Yeah, I get it.
You are.
I had to come to terms with that.
And I think that is a good thing.
Yeah.
I think you could have goals. You can have major goals, but and in my situation, I just didn't like the route I was taking.
Yeah.
And maybe, just maybe, if I had been lucky to be in different kinds of galleries.
Yeah.
When I first started out, I went to, basically resort towns because they sell, like Santa Fe or Taos or La Jolla, California, or Phoenix, or, Coconut Grove, Florida, that kind of a thing. And so, I just, I've gotten to a point where if it happens, it happens. But if not, I'm going to do it anyway.
All right. So I'm going to ask you 2 questions and I want your gut reaction. What it means to you. First thing that comes to mind, success.
Freedom.
Future.
At this point in my life, God.
Told you they were going to be good questions.
Good question. Let's put it this way. I'm feeling my impermanence.
Gotcha.
I don't think, and if anything, as an artist, it's made me want to do more.
Yeah.
I said something the other day to a real good friend. I said, if I'm lucky, I have about 15 more years. And he goes, 15 more years? What are you talking about? You've got much, much longer than that. I don't know.
Well, your genetics say that you do.
Yes, my genetics say I do. But both of my brothers had the same.
That's true.
But anyway, future, I'm just going to continue to immerse myself in having a good time in the studio.
Yeah.
I almost even, I'm because I still teach a little bit. I teach these students of mine that creative play is where it's at.
Yeah.
That's where things bubble up. That's where you get, you may have a concept in your head. I'm pretty conceptual in most things that I do. But getting in there and, me, I like to work in, one of the reasons I like being a series artist is that ever so often I change directions.
Yeah.
I use new materials, new tools and stuff. I'm right now learning to use liver of sulfur. I've never done that in my life. But anyway, so yeah, it's really all good in that regard. But I'm thankful that I went through I went through everything that I did, and that I think I'm pretty well respected as an artist. I loved that, with my peer group. Well, but it's every time I go to the studio, it's like that's where I need to be. That's what gives me a lot of the purpose. Granted, I'm a grandfather and I love my granddaughter and my very small family, but it's I would do without it. I would be very little. And so there's an esteem quality to it now that maybe I didn't have before. For the longest time, it was like I was trying to prove myself. And now I don't have that. Granted, I want people to be, oh my God, look at this, that kind of thing. I love that. But I mean, some of the reasons that I do what I do has nothing to do with anything but just being in there, creatively playing, and in a lot of ways, it's enough.
Yeah.
When I remember George Oswald, a dear friend of mine, we were talking about getting older, and he still plugs away too.
I want to get George in here too.
George would be a great person.
Yeah, I really want to get George in here.
He's very articulate and he's very knowledgeable, and he's the person I go to when I don't know for sure.
Yeah.
I'll do something new and I'm going, okay, I don't know.
You remember George hung my very first show I ever had at IO. George Oswald hung my show.
Yeah.
Yeah, he might not even remember it. I was late getting there.
Oh, he remembers everything.
He's a little grumpy that day. I don't know if he remembers that.
No, I don't.
Yeah.
Why? Because you were late?
A little bit. Yeah, he said something. I can't remember what he said. And I was thinking, asshole. But he's a great dude. I love that guy to death.
It's interesting because when we first met him, people told us, well, you better be careful because especially when he's a lot younger.
Yeah.
He was kind of
a little bit of a brute,
kind of a rough-looking guy, but he's a teddy bear.
That's a good.
No, don't.
That's a
I should
good
never
dude.
call him it. No, he's just a very sweet and caring human being.
Yeah.
I like him a lot.
I can't wait to have a conversation with him. Well, there's one more question for you. You going to come back and do this again?
Sure, I'd love to.
Okay. Well, this is Nathan Lee with Life is Art, with a good friend and incredible artist, Paul Medina. I'll leave information and some links so you can find him and his work. And share, like, and subscribe. I've had a blast here. And let everybody else know that the Life is Art podcast is alive and kicking. And until the next time, take care.